No compliment is ever just a compliment. Praise in the real world is rarely free. It often arrives dressed in charm, masking a quiet transaction behind every flattering word. You're brilliant. You're so generous. You've got vision. They smile. You feel taller. But what they've really done is hand you a sealed contract, and you haven't read the fine print yet. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He saw through the silk of sweet words and uncovered the steel barbs beneath. People, he said, are ungrateful, deceptive, and self-interested. He wasn't being cynical. He was being accurate. The only thing that's changed since the Renaissance is the packaging. Flattery now comes with emojis, DMs, and applause reacts. But the aim is the same. Trade your attention for their advantage. So your first defense is brutal honesty with yourself. If their words pull you in, it's because some part of you wants to be pulled. You like it. You enjoy the warmth that praise brings. That's fine. Admit it. But don't be used by it. Weaponize it. Think back to the last message that made you feel seen, admired, or powerful. Then ask yourself, what did they gain from that interaction? What was the unspoken request you answered without ever being asked? That's your wake-up call. Naivety has a cost, and you've paid it long enough. Start here. Scarcity. When you're too available, your value drops. When you reply to every message instantly, give your time too freely, or accept praise without pause, you teach others that your attention is cheap. So stop flooding the market with yourself. Machiavelli told rulers to appear rarely, but with impact. Do the same. Let your absence speak. Let others feel your withdrawal. But scarcity isn't enough. Add silence. Strategic, measured, uncomfortable silence. When someone praises you next, resist the urge to respond with emojis, exclamation points, or thank yous. Instead, give them space. Leave the message untouched, or respond with a cool noted. That void, that pause, they'll rush to fill it. They'll reveal more, overplay their hand, give you more than they intended. That imbalance becomes your leverage. This tactic isn't cold. It's calculated. It's controlled. When someone flatters you in public, on LinkedIn, in a tweet, through a glowing email, take a screenshot, save it, archive it. Because when they eventually pivot, challenge, or betray you, that praise becomes ammunition. Funny, you'll say. You called me indispensable last quarter. Hypocrisy ruins reputations. Keep receipts. Understand the psychology behind all this. Praise creates a debt, but one that feels invisible. They give you emotional warmth and expect practical return. Flip the script. Turn their compliment into a hook that benefits you. Offer a resource in return, something small but meaningful. A piece of advice, a connection, a glimpse behind your curtain. Now they feel indebted to you. They remember that you gave them something. That emotional accounting favors you now. Don't mirror flattery with more flattery. That's their trap. Instead, offer something they can't easily reciprocate. Access to insight, protection, strategic guidance. That puts you one level above them. Now they feel grateful, dependent, willing to listen. This isn't about cruelty. It's about structure. You still give, you still support. But you keep records. You recognize the balance. The world cannot resent what it respects. So learn to spot what lies beneath the praise. They compliment your storytelling because they want your audience. They applaud your calm because they want to lean on it. Once you see the pattern, you control the tempo. You decide when, how, and if you respond. A slight shift in tone, a delayed message, a canceled meeting, all serve as reminders. Access to you is not guaranteed. Machiavelli said fear outlasts love, but you don't need to inspire fear. Just show them that access can disappear, and they'll start treating your time like it's precious. Still, true power isn't just about withdrawal. It's also about projection. Cultivate an aura so rich in substance that no flattery can surpass it. Stack wins, earn results, build undeniable outcomes. The louder your success echoes, the more hollow their compliments sound. When someone praises you again, flip it into a question. Glad the report impressed you. What's the hardest thing on your plate right now? Now they reveal their problem, and you gain insight. Let their compliments serve as an entry point to their strategy, their struggles, their flaws. And when someone says, "You're the best leader I've ever seen," don't deflect. Don't downplay it. Acknowledge it, nod, and pivot. Leadership's nothing without execution. How do we push forward together? That's power. Dignity intact. Agenda advanced. Play with multiple identities. Be versatile. Be charismatic in public, analytical in meetings, silent and unreadable in private. When you wear many faces, they won't know which one to flatter, and their manipulation fails. And whatever you do, never get high on your own praise. Many have fallen because they believed their myth too soon. Keep around you people who don't flatter, who challenge, who correct, who see through the veil. Real friends, not fans. Make your exit expensive. If someone benefits from knowing you, your ideas, your insight, your network, make that access contingent on continued value. When they leave, they should feel like they lost something irreplaceable. That's how luxury brands operate. You should too. Host rare events. Offer exclusive skills. Let your contribution feel scarce, not expected. When the compliments shift into demands, "You're so good at this. Can you just help with that real quick?" Respond professionally. "I'd love to help. Let's talk about scope and budget." Turn their praise into a contract, into structure, into compensation. Sometimes they'll try emotional tricks. "You're the only one who understands me." Translation: "I want something right now, and I'm using emotion to skip negotiation." Don't fall for it. Move the conversation into the morning. Delay. Space gives clarity. Urgency is where flattery hides its claws. Even in love, be vigilant. Seduction uses worship as camouflage. No one's ever made me feel this way. Maybe. But emotion without boundaries is vulnerability without defense. Love deeply, yes. But set limits. Withdraw when respect wanes, not to punish, but to protect. You don't need to reject praise. You need to reframe it. Use it to gain access, collaboration. Etienne, capital. Let their admiration flow towards something tangible. A joint project, a speaking slot, a referral. Praise becomes tributary, feeding your empire. Tonight, look at the compliments you've received recently. Ask yourself, what was behind them? What was unspoken? What did you give in return? Now ask, what leverage did I gain? If the answer is none, you gave it away for free. Time to change that. The man who cannot be seduced by praise is the man who cannot be controlled. He doesn't need applause. He doesn't need validation. His self-worth is sovereign. That man can walk into any room and bend it to his will, not by force, not by noise, but because he answers to no one's approval but his own. Be that man. If you've begun to see through praise, you're already a step ahead. But compliments are just one form of control. The next chain is made from expectations. People will try to trap you, not with threats, but with roles, assumptions, and invisible obligations. You're the reliable one. You're always so generous. You're the glue that holds everything together. At first, feels like respect. But listen more closely. It's not a compliment. It's a cage. These roles, handed to you like gifts, are designed to make your behavior predictable. Predictability is comfort for others, and comfort for them is usually a constraint for you, because once you accept a role, they start scripting your responses. You're no longer free to say no without disappointing someone. You're no longer allowed to shift, to grow, to outgrow the narrative they've written for you. Machiavelli would tell you, never become so known that you can no longer pivot. So here's the move. Subvert their expectations. When they call you the peacemaker, let them see your ruthless precision. When they think you're too logical to care, reveal a moment of unpredictable boldness. Not often, just enough to remind them they don't have you figured out. Because mystery is leverage, and the less they can pin you down, the more seriously they take you. People will cling to the version of you that benefits them. But your responsibility is not to maintain their comfort. It's to protect your evolution. You are not here to fulfill their story. You are here to write your own. Don't fight every label. That burns energy. Instead, accept the label and then act in a way that makes them question it. Over time, confusion sets in. They begin to hesitate before making demands. They stop treating you like a resource they can tap at will. That hesitation is the beginning of your freedom. But what happens when you try to break free of an old identity? Resistance, passive aggression, guilt trips. You've changed. Yes, that's the point. Growth feels like betrayal to people who only knew you when you were useful. Don't explain your change, demonstrate it. The more you explain, the more you give people a foothold to argue. Move in silence, let them catch up or drift behind. And while they're reacting, you're doing the real work, rewriting your internal script. The voice in your head, it's been programmed too, by teachers, by family, by lovers, by leaders. You were taught to seek harmony, to be helpful, to make people feel comfortable. But comfort is the enemy of transformation. And your mission now is to rebuild your instinct. Not to be cruel, but to be sovereign. When someone asks for your time, ask yourself, do they respect it? When someone wants access, ask, do they earn it or expect it? When someone flatters you, ask, are they manipulating your image of yourself? And then begin the pivot. Learn the art of the clean no. No excuses, no over-explaining, no trailing apologies. Just a firm, deliberate no, delivered calmly. You don't need to justify your boundaries to those who never asked permission before crossing them. Because here's the truth. Most people don't want you powerful. They want you predictable. They don't want your independence. They want your compliance, dressed up as reliability. They'll say they miss the old you, but the old you served them more than it served you. So create space, literal and figurative. Move your desk. Rearrange your calendar. Stop attending events that drain you. Limit access without notice. Not because you're punishing, but because you're pruning. What doesn't grow with you dies around you. And when they notice, and they will, you'll hear it in their questions. Everything okay? You seem different. You've been quiet. Smile. You're doing it right. Their discomfort is a byproduct of your clarity. Let's talk about clarity. Because clarity is terrifying to those who benefit from your confusion. Once you see the dynamic, once you name the manipulation, once you decide to stop playing, they lose their grip. Not because you fought harder, but because you stopped dancing. Clarity is a form of rebellion. It's also the first step toward sovereignty. But clarity requires solitude. That's the uncomfortable truth. You can't hear your own voice if it's always drowned out by the noise of obligation. So seek silence, not just for peace, but for recalibration. Turn off notifications. Don't respond instantly. Sit with the discomfort of not performing for others. Let the guilt pass. It will. And when it does, you'll realize it was never your burden to carry. In the silence, questions will come. Let them. Ask yourself, what roles have I accepted that I never chose? Whose expectations am I still carrying? What am I afraid will happen if I stop being who they want me to be? And then act. Small at first. Say no to one thing. Withdraw from one group. Decline one call. Watch how the world continues to turn. Watch how the people who matter adapt, and how the ones who only used you vanish. That's how you know. In time, the world will meet the new version of you. Not with applause, but with caution. They'll tread lighter, speak slower, test your boundaries less. And that quiet shift will be the reward. Not noise, not praise, but space. Because when respect replaces approval, everything changes. You'll no longer crave praise. You'll prefer clarity. You'll stop seeking permission. You'll build your own framework. And most of all, you'll stop performing. You'll live. Not as the role they cast you in, but as the one you chose for yourself. Once you've stepped away from the performance, once you've broken free of the roles they assigned, you'll begin to notice something strange. You say less, but people start listening more. You attend fewer meetings, but your presence is more valued. You give fewer answers, and yet your voice carries more weight. This is not coincidence. This is power recalibrating. You've stopped flooding the room with effort. You've created scarcity. And in doing so, you've become a source of gravity. A person others start to orbit, not because you're chasing, but because you've made yourself still. Stillness is misunderstood. To the untrained, it looks passive. But to those who study influence, stillness is strategy. It signals composure. It shows you're not baited by urgency, not provoked by noise. You move when you're ready, not when you're summoned. That alone changes the power dynamic in any room. And now comes your next shift, learning to hold tension. Most people are addicted to resolution. They can't stand silence. They rush to fill awkward gaps with apologies, jokes, explanations. That instinct is weakness, disguised as politeness. But you're done with that. You've learned that tension is leverage. If you can hold it without flinching, you control the tempo. Let them fidget. Let them over-explain. Let them guess what you're thinking. Your refusal to ease their anxiety forces them to show their hand. That discomfort, that's the moment when real information surfaces. You'll find this power useful everywhere. In negotiations, it makes your silence feel like strategy. In conflict, it makes your calm feel dangerous. In relationships, it makes your standards feel sacred. But here's the next evolution. Once you have silence, start curating your signal. Not everything needs a response. Not every message needs a reply. Not every compliment needs acknowledgement. The moment you stop broadcasting your every move, people begin to project. They imagine. They fill in the blanks. And in those imagined gaps, your presence grows. You become larger than the moment. You become myth. This is how influence works. Not through repetition, but through mystery. You want to be the person who always knows more than they share, who always sees more than they say, who seems to be aware of patterns others can't even name. That aura comes from discipline, specifically the discipline of discretion. Guard your emotions, guard your motives, guard your process. People should see the effect, not the effort. Let them be amazed by your composure, but never fully understand how you built it. That obscurity is protection. It's power. And as your influence grows, you'll encounter another test. the invitation to power that costs your soul. Someone will offer you a shortcut, a title, a platform, a chance to rise if you'll just soften your values, compromise your edge, dilute your presence to become more palatable. Say no. That kind of power is rented, not owned. It makes you a puppet with better lighting. The moment you start curating yourself for applause, you've already lost control of the script. Keep your authenticity sharp, your silence intentional, your movements rare. Remember, power that can be given can also be taken. So build power from within. Cultivate influence no one can cancel. Relationships that are earned, not bought. Value that speaks for itself, even when you speak for no one. When others need applause to feel whole, you need only your alignment. When others overshare to be seen, you reveal nothing and remain unforgettable. When others rush to fill silence, you let it expand and rule from within it. But even as you sharpen, do not grow bitter. This is a vital distinction. Bitterness contaminates power. It leaks into your tone, your energy, your motives. And when people sense resentment, they don't feel reverence. They feel danger. The goal is not to punish the world for misunderstanding you. The goal is to evolve past the need to be understood at all. True mastery isn't fueled by resentment. It's driven by clarity. You don't walk away from the crowd to prove a point. You walk away because your path diverged, and you no longer ask permission to follow it. And here's the truth no one tells you. When you rise like this, quietly, strategically, on your own terms, people will start rewriting your story in real time. They'll say you've changed, that you think you're above them, that you're cold, distant, self-absorbed. Let them talk. You don't correct rumors, you outlive them. You don't argue with critics, you outperform them. You don't fight for your name. You become the standard that their names are measured against. And one day, when they finally stop trying to decode you and start learning from you, you'll realize what all this restraint was building toward. Not applause, not attention, but authority. Not the kind they vote on. The kind they feel when you walk into a room and no one wants to be on the wrong side of your silence. That's the kind of respect that outlasts relevance. That's the kind of presence that commands loyalty without threats, control without noise, reverence without performance. By now, you've begun to feel it. The subtle shift in how people respond to you. The weight your silence carries. The quiet authority that needs no stage. You've stepped away from the performance. You've dropped the need to be understood. And in doing so, you've become something rarer than applause. Undeniable. But this journey doesn't end with power. That's only the midpoint. The final test is legacy. What echoes in the room after you've left it? What choices outlive you? What structures stay standing even when your name fades from memory? The greatest leaders don't just dominate the present. They architect futures. They shape environments where others adjust themselves, not out of fear, but out of respect. And respect, at this level, isn't about being admired. It's about becoming irreplaceable. You do this by embedding your values in systems, in decisions, in culture, in discipline. The same restraint that got you here, that willingness to pause, observe, choose with precision, must now become your standard. Because everyone watches the person who moves with intention. They imitate, even when they don't understand. They try to replicate what you've internalized. So guard what you model. If you speak, speak clearly. If you lead, lead without noise. If you teach, teach from experience, not theory. And if you walk away, Do so with finality. The people around you will continue trying to pull you back into their frame, into comfort, into compromise, into softness. But you've outgrown the roles they gave you. You've seen behind the curtain. You know how quickly love turns to expectation, how flattery conceals dependency, how roles become chains when left unexamined. So now you move differently, with care, with boundaries, with a stillness that demands respect, not because you asked for it, but because you've become someone who no longer negotiates it. The emperor doesn't chase power, he attracts responsibility. He doesn't dominate people, he shapes landscapes. He doesn't speak to be heard, he speaks to decide. And that's your final shift from reactive to sovereign, from needing to lead, to being the one they follow naturally. Because of your consistency, because of your restraint, because of your internal alignment, because you have proven through quiet strength, through deliberate silence, through controlled presence, that you are not swayed by noise, temptation, or chaos. You are a man they can't manipulate, a mind they can't predict, a force they can't replace. And when you finally leave the room, they will sit with the silence you leave behind, not because it's empty, but because it still carries the shape of you. That's legacy. Not carved in stone, but in behavior. Not spoken, but remembered. Not performed, but earned. So take one last look at who you used to be.